So 8 times since 1961, UT has won 10 or more games as we welcome in Mike Robinson from the Rocket Radio Network. You hear him every game day on the sidelines for UT. Mike Rob, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
Last time they won 10 games was 2017, which was the last time they won the MAC championship. They also won 10 games the year that Matt Campbell departed for Iowa State and Jason Candle was the head coach for the Bowl. So it has happened a few times, but you can understand why a 10-win season would be so important, would be so good for the resume, It would be so good to quiet some critics.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're Coach Candle, you know, it's something that's on the back of your mind, but it can't be on the forefront. But to achieve the goals that you want, you at least got to get 9 here in this situation. And dropping the ball game last week to Bowling Green, you know, sets up a big week here at Western Michigan because it's almost a must-win field. But who you got going?
That's the major question, the quarterback situation, as Daquan Finn's not completely healthy. Tucker Gleason looked good against Bowling Green, but was playing that second with a broken hand, the non-throwing hand. So do you risk playing either one of those guys against Western Michigan, give them another week to rest so they're completely healthy for the MAC championship game, and rely on an untested John Allen Richter against the Broncos?
Well, you gotta assess the situation, assess the room. We don't know. I mean, they keep those things very close to the vest, so we won't know until kickoff, you know, until a quarterback's going out there. But if we're going to guess and play that game a little bit, I would say that, you know, it's probably looking like Gleason won't go, playing, you know, with the heroic efforts, with a lot of adrenaline, going with that broken hand, playing a really good game of football, just coming up short. You know, now you got to look at DQ. That high ankle sprain, is that something that's still affecting him? And if he can't go, you're forced to go with your third man at that situation. Obviously, the coaches are going to get him right. Coach Wiener does a really good job of just getting that room ready. We saw that with Gleason. But now can we go to a third quarterback like some other teams like Northern? They're on their 4th quarterback right now.
Yeah, the big question is, how is Toledo going to respond after that tough loss to Bowling Green? We know they're going to Detroit for the MAC championship game. That's been decided a long time ago. But you got to get up for this game, or otherwise that loss to Bowling Green could turn into 2 losses.
Yeah, you don't want things to snowball, you know, no pun intended, because what happened last week for Western Michigan was they snowballed in a fight versus Central Michigan. And that game, when you're a coaching staff for Toledo, you kind of got to look at that and just throw the film out the books, because they're not going to play the same type of football game or the same type of scheme that you're going to play in a snowball like that. That game was crazy to watch just on TV, imagining what that is like to call it. So for Toledo, you lose a week of film. You don't really understand what this team is going to do, but you don't want to come into this game and not come in to win. You know, at Western Michigan, it's a hard place for Toledo to go win a football game. They've done a good job over the past few years, but listening to the player interviews from the Western Michigan football team, looking at their defensive line, looking what Bowling Green defensive line did with UTs, there is going to be some things that Western's going to do defensively that's going to disrupt Toledo, especially with a backup quarterback, a third-string quarterback.
Is that Bronco D-line what stands out the most to you about this Western Michigan team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Mr. Carter there on the defensive line. He's got pick sixes. You know, it's going to be a 1 versus 1. We got our Desjuan Johnson at number 1, and they got their number 1 at Carter. And this is a football team also with Moment. He's got a lot of sacks in that backfield. So the offensive line for Toledo seemingly, you know, has had some hiccups throughout the year. They're a little banged up. We'll see what they put out there on the field this week. But you got to be able to get rushing yards. That is going to be the biggest factor, in my opinion. You got to be able to run the football against this team.
Other side of the ball, how concerned are you about this Rocket defense that gave up 40-plus points to Bowling Green?
You know, I just think that, you know, as a fan, you know, watching a Toledo versus Bowling Green game, that was probably the most action you can get. I mean, that was a really good football game. I didn't feel that way at the game, let me tell you that. I didn't feel that way. But going back and watching the tape, you know, Toledo did some things. They've had some changes. But, again, you had Max and Hook go out where you had the safety miss that big third down play right there. So there were some things that, you know, UT got to lock in and focus up on. Bowling Green came out and played great football, and I think that's what it was about. You know, you can't discount what BG did. They came with a good game plan. And Toledo, they got to find a way to get some rushing yards, because that is the difference right now between those 2 teams.
Rockets and Broncos play Friday at noon, the day after Thanksgiving. So that provides some logistical challenges. Everybody's got to lay off the turkey on Thursday. You win on Friday, you can have the feast on a Saturday. I want to thank our guest, Mike Robinson, from the Toledo Rocket Radio Network, for stopping by. Thanks, Mike Rob.
Thanks for having me.